Welcome to Epic Financial Solutions. Welcome to the video that we're going to be posting for this week. This week we're going to talk about career progressions and how that relates to your saving and investments. The biggest challenge is that a lot of advice says the minute you start to work, you must be worried about retirement. You must be worried about emergency savings. You must be worried about mid to long-term savings. You must be worried about investments and all these things. And in this video, we're going to try to put into perspective things that you can consider and things that can help you to be able to navigate this difficult situation. So to do this, we're going to divide the stages in your career between the stability mode, which is when you start to work and you're just getting the flow of things. You're now going to be able to take care of your rent and all the other necessary payments. And from the stability mode, we're gonna move to the second phase. And the second phase, it's a phase where you are able to strategically start to structure your finances. And this stage is where you either become efficient or you lose it. And then there's the advanced stage. At the advanced stage is when you've got your bills covered, you've got your emergency savings in place. Now you're looking for long-term investing, something of about 10, 15 to even 30 years. And we're gonna do that by an introduction of a graph. Now, this graph over here indicates how your progression is going to be. And here it's going to be you starting your career. And here it's going to be your retirement. And this line signifies the increase on your income. And then underneath, there would be a graph. And this graph would simply indicate the number of years you've been working. And on this would be your long-term saving plan or your long-term investments. Now, this part up until here, this is where the stability mode of your career is. And this is the efficiency. And then this is your strategy or long term. And okay, strategy over there. And whether you succeed or not in the long term depends on the type of decisions that you're going to make at these different points. So first of all, when you start working, here it's a period for you to get yourself settled. So here you're going to have all your long-term commitments. So the decision will be made here, and by the time you hit this mark, you need to be at a point where you're able to tell of your commitments over a period of about 5 to 10 years. And then from 10 to 15 years, it's where the strategy bit comes in. So when you start your career, for most of us, the increase in your salary becomes a bit higher because now you jump from a junior, you start to become experienced, and then you're going up there. This stage, you need to figure out, am I going to rent or buy the place that I'm gonna be living on? And you're gonna establish the kind of car installments you're going to be incurring. It's gonna be a stage where you're gonna get your household budget to stabilize. And this period typically takes about between 3 and about 5-6 years in most of our careers. And careers will be different. There will be those who this stage will be a bit shorter, but the graph will be a bit more steeper because as they qualify, so they get the degree as a medical doctor and they finish their ComServe and then they start working a lot of hours, they get good overtime and their career takes shape in that form. And for most of us, it's going to traditionally be as you progress until you get to a point where you experience, you know your worth in the industry and you're able to get to that salary in the industry. And here, the biggest thing on top of figuring your expenses is making sure that you have a stable savings plan. So you have a stable emergency fund where on a month to month, you tend to dip into it. So the biggest things here in your mind is, I need to stabilize a budget and stick to it. I need to have emergency fund that I can access at any time. And then once you successfully achieve this point, somewhere towards halfway here, you start to introduce a bit of medium to long-term savings. That's where you go into structured products like your fixed deposit, where you won't be able to access your money for a certain period of time because it's not going to be useful for you to have a fixed deposit where your money can be accessed easily when you don't have an emergency fund. Now, as you graduate throughout this level and you reach a point where you are experienced, you've settled into your career now, you can't jump around different positions to get an increase. Now you sit with your manager, you see the increase that they give you per year and you try to negotiate. At that stage, your increase starts to level up a bit. And when you're in this point, this is a good place where you start to introduce into your financial profile long-term savings in the form of shares, in the form of equity investments. And equity investments would either be unit trusts, it could be it could be other sorts of things, it could be currencies, whatever it is that you excel in. Somewhere midpoint here, you're going to have to introduce it to your financial plan. And this is ideally supposed to carry you over this period of the graph here, where the increase on your income starts to decline a lot more. So at this stage, you have made it to the top of your career, you've made it, and an extra 5 or 10% in salary doesn't necessarily make you change your position, because you're either at a place where you're working close to where you live and where your kids' schools are and all those things. So it's not easy just to uproot and leave. And as it gets to the point of retirement. Here, virtually the increase to your salary becomes almost zero, in that most of your increase needs to be channeled into your retirement, because this is where you need to be figuring out, how am I going to live on this money for the rest of my life? So most of our careers are going to follow this shape. Entrepreneurs would have their own graph, and those who are in different kind of posts would have a different graph. But for most of us, we follow this path. And if you look down here, this graph indicates where you need to be in your total savings perspective. So when you start working, when your income stabilizes, now you go from the efficiency stage, where every extra increase, you need to decide, how much am I going to invest? How much am I going to add to my day-to-day budget? And how am I going to split this income? And then you get to this point. When you get to this point, you now start to think retirement. So your long-term savings are no longer about, I want that house, I want that car, I want that thing. It's mostly retirement. And the difficulty with most of us, particularly in South Africa, is that this graph for us tend to go down as we proceed with our career. Why? Because we make a lot of commitments in the beginning, which in the long term tends to eat into the money that we could possibly put into our investments, being our emergency savings, medium term, and long-term investments. And by the time we retire, we found that the level of debt that we are under, it's so high that when your provident or pension fund comes, the thing you must satisfy first is to make sure that you deal with all the debt before you go on retirement. But if you follow this simple formula of thinking about our finances, it can help us to make sure that when we get to the peak of our career, we are at almost the highest point of our savings and investment plan. And then when we get to retirement, we are able to put in a little bit thinking about tomorrow. And that's the point where we consider retirement annuities and all the other long-term life insurance products that will take us across to the other side of our retirement. So I hope this will help. We'll do an additional video where we delve into these sections a bit deeper in the next coming weeks. This is Sulisani Matodzi at Epic Financial Solution, here to help you think about how you do retirement, thinking about how you live now and the ways to get to both sides.